Okay, let's talk about the WWE in the year 2011. I'm going to break this down pretty much by division, because I think that'll make it go the fastest. So we'll start off with potentially the bottom, which would be the Divas division. You know, after Lady Cool broke apart, and Michelle McCool was essentially released so she could spend time with her beat up, normally staying at home husband, The Undertaker. That's when we had Karma show up, pretty much the exact same night. Karma, of course, is Amazing Kong, and people were so entirely excited about it. And she more or less came out, laid out Divas, and then left. And then she had this moment where she sat down and began to cry. Then she realized she was pregnant, and that she could no longer compete. She also got engaged. Her engagement ring, of course, is an actual wrestling ring. So if you can look up, some I think it's like Kong engagement ring. It is a legitimate ring with ring posts in the center. I'll be honest, that's probably one of the coolest wedding rings I have ever seen. And then when she left, we were kind of stuck with the Bella Twins fighting Kelly and Eve for a while, which then transmorphed into Kelly versus Pinup Strong, who tend to lose a lot of their matches. I mean, Beth Phoenix had a horrible time trying to beat Kelly. And what was the last Divas match we got to see for this year? It was Beth Phoenix losing to Miss Botchamania, Alicia Fox. We also had quite a few Divas leave. Melina, Maryse, she was actually pretty decently improved. I don't know where she would have fit in now, to be honest. I mean, she wouldn't work with Pinup Strong, and she wouldn't be a face. As well as Michelle McCool. So we lost quite a few in the way of Divas. And then we also got to have Snooki in a match. So not only did we lose Divas, at WrestleMania Snooki had a match. Currently the Divas belt is on Beth Phoenix, and unless they do something, she really has no competition. I mean, she's going to have to make somebody else look good enough to beat her. So you start with all of this, man, Karma's going to show up, it's going to be Karma and Beth Phoenix, or Karma, Beth Phoenix, and the tie-in's going to be ridiculous. And none of that happened. Or Karma's going to renew her feud with Gail Kim, and it's going to be great. No. Even Karma Melina would have had some really good legs to it. It would have been kind of like watching a four-person's Mischief take on Kong. Would have been very good stuff, and I can't knock her for getting pregnant. If that's one of her dreams, it is one of her dreams. But from a fan standpoint, it's kind of like, oh, Divas division's going to suck for a while, isn't it? And it really hasn't evolved to the point where it should have. Now we're going to the tag division. Again, tag division, beginning part of the year, you had the Core, you had the Nexus, you had the Usos. I think the Hart Dynasty was still a tag team at the beginning part of this year. She had a decent amount of teams with actual names. The Core held the belts for a while, really didn't seem to kind of go anywhere. The Core kind of broke up. Nexus kind of held the titles. Nexus kind of broke up. Titles really weren't defended very often. Then Air Boom got the titles. And then they feuded with Swagler. And then Evan Bourne failed a drug test, so they didn't defend the belts for 30 days. And it seemed like that's, again, something that had a lot of real great promise to it. It still does in between teams like Air Boom, Cologne's version 2. I really wish Awesome Truth would have had a run with the tag belts. If there was ever a team that came out this year that was just ridiculous, it was Awesome Truth. But they broke them up because R-Truth failed the drug test. For how many storylines get ruined by a drug test? I gotta give Vince credit for sticking to his guns and actually, if you get caught and you fail a drug test, you get suspended. And we tell you get suspended. And in some ways it does actually hurt some of his divisions, but it's better to be, safe than to have another liability lawsuit on your hands. So now we're already at the mid-card titles. The US belt and the IC belt actually had really solid years. The IC title initially You had it on Barrett for a while. Barrett had some pretty decent feuds, and by the end of the year, it actually ended up on Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, who then got rid of that belt and brought back the old school white title. This was an absolutely amazing year for Cody Rhodes. You know, he went from having like his face broken to use that to change his gimmick, to removing the mask to change his gimmick again. You know, decent level feud with Booker T. He's done a really fantastic job with that title. You know, so the IC belt and the mid card for SmackDown, actually pretty decent. Too bad Ted DiBiase Jr. is not really doing anything. Those two could have probably had a fantastic feud for that title. So now we'll go on to the Raw mid card belt, the U.S. Championship. You know, Ziggler did an amazing job with that belt. The end of the year feud with Ziggler and Ryder was fantastic. You know, Ziggler is on his way to breaking that glass ceiling and becoming a main event superstar. And Ryder went from being a guy who wasn't even on TV to doing enough of a groundswell to get himself not only onto TV, not only getting over on TV, but ending the year as a champion. You know, so the U.S. title, really solid job. The two mid-card titles did a really good job of doing the following two things, which have always been designed to do. And it's always that this is how we're going to build up our next main event guys. And this is how you keep the mid-card interesting. If you can't write a storyline, a guy feuding for a title is really easy to write. And it makes a pretty solid mid-card. And then your current mid-card becomes your future main event. Or upper mid-card, which makes them lower main. But, you know, the people who tend to feud for the US and the IC titles tend to also be the ones who go on in a couple of years, either feud for the title itself, or to be involved in matches like the Elimination Chamber, where they have a chance to become the champion. You know. So, now I'm going to break from the titles and talk about the big storyline that actually happened on Raw. So we went from the anonymous general manager. You know, the doodle, doodle. Can I have your attention, please? I just received an announcement from the anonymous general, Raw general manager. It went from that to the groundswell at Money in the Bank, by far the pay-per-view of the year. Don't even argue me. It was the pay-per-view of the year. Period. End of sentence. Closing book. Which led to Vince McMahon firing John Cena. He didn't get to do it because Triple H came down and fired him. Triple H feuding with Punk. Triple H creating an unsafe work environment for some strange reason. The mimicking of the NBA lockout. The vote of no confidence on Triple H. Triple H stepping down. Then John Laurinaitis taking over and becoming the interim Raw general manager of Raw. Huh. I just Laurinaitis my line. Oh well. I don't have a script, so I can do that. And then it's just, every week we get to see him get eviscerated by Punk on the microphone. But again, as always, it's a good way for Vince to get the summer off, without them having to kill him again. But then you get to have that still dangling thread of, so who was the anonymous Raw general manager? That story arc never really went anywhere. Just kind of finished. It was almost like the debut of Brodus Clay, or Jonah Hill on Raw. And it just didn't really go anywhere this year. So now we're going to the main event titles. I'll go first with SmackDown. After Del Rio won the Royal Rumble, which was his destiny, he feuded with Edge at Mania, and it really didn't go anywhere. It was kind of a bad match. Edge then later retired, which was probably the story of the year. I don't care if The Rock came back and wrestled a match and got involved in another match. We're not going to see Edge wrestle in another match. Period. Edge is done. That then led to a better feud, which is Del Rio and Christian. And then Christian getting the gold, which was actually the first time I had watched a SmackDown in quite a few years, because beyond Punk, SmackDown was kind of dull. And then what was my enthusiasm met with? A stiff RKO, and then the Randy Orton-a-thon began. And then Orton became champion. Orton then began to feud with Mark Henry. Probably not the best of feuds, but Henry finally became champion, which then led to him to continue to feud with Orton for a while, till Orton began a better feud with Barrett. Actually, I'll jump backwards before I go to Orton on SmackDown. The Orton-Punk feud was really good. The Christian-Orton feud was really good, except for Christian losing an awful lot. That was kind of the bad part. The Orton-Henry feud, not really good. The Orton-Barrett feud, pretty decent. Of course, now Orton's out for the next couple of months, so I guess Barrett's going to go back to... Maybe they'll form a stable again. It's a new year. Maybe it's time for the Cornixes, or something kind of lame like that. And then it was Show and Henry. Now, from Vengeance, when they destroyed the ring, they did a pretty good job of going, you know what, these guys are two mastodons. Are their matches, catch-as-catch-can wrestling? No, they're not luchadors. They are two big, hurt-you dudes, period. And not a bad feud for the two of them. They both have pseudo-limited movesets, but you can do a big clothesline when you're the Big Show to Mark Henry, and you can sell it for a couple of seconds. You don't need a clothesline. Pop back up. No, you can clothesline. And then go for a pin, and it seems more legitimate. And then how do we end this year? After Daniel Bryan won at Money in the Bank for the SmackDown briefcase, everyone was waiting for him to cash it in. Daniel Bryan had some great matches with Mark Henry. The steel cage match that they had, where it seemed like Henry was going to pretty much turn Daniel Bryan into a goo layer in 2 seconds of skeleton, was a really good cage match. And of course, at the end of the year, Daniel Bryan snuck one over on the Big Show, got a 3 count, and is the new champion. That's just ridiculous. A really good job when it came to, at the beginning of the year, they knew what they wanted to do. Edge retired. Okay, scrap it, new game plan. Christian Orton, pretty solid. Orton Henry, not as good. Henry Show, decent. I would have preferred Henry Sheamus. That's just me. I think Henry Sheamus has a lot more legs than Henry Show. Or even Show Sheamus. And then putting on Bryan at the very end. So all in all, pretty decent job on that title. So now, of course, we come to the big title, the coup de grace, the WWE Championship. This year began with The Miz. Yes, The Miz did a fantastic job when it came to holding on to that gold, even winning at WrestleMania. Of course, while Miz and Cena was going on, that's when you had Punk Orton back when it was sociopathic Punk, leader of New Nexus. Still good, but Punk didn't really kick it on until the summer. So then after you end up having the WrestleMania, and a little more Cena Miz, and then of course Cena becoming champion, because what Cena does, he becomes champion. We're now pretty much close to Money in the Bank time, when the summer of Punk kicked into ridiculous high gear. I'm still kicking myself for not going to Money in the Bank. It was an hour away from my house, because I was so jaded with pay-per-views. I'm like, it's not going to be anything special. And it ended up being probably one of the best pay-per-views of the year, if not of this decade. Yes, this decade just started. I don't picture Vince being able to do anything better than Money in the Bank in the next 9 years. I don't. You gotta really surprise me, Vince, to beat what happened in Money in the Bank, and the storyline that was told, and what came out after it. And that shaped the whole rest of the year for Raw, on the night after Money in the Bank. And with CM Punk winning that title, and pretty much going on to having probably one of the most ridiculous weeks. Showing up at Comic-Con. He did a great groundswell. I really do wish they would have held him off TV for a month. I think if he would have showed up at the pay-per-view, as opposed to like the following week on Raw when Cena became the new WWE champion, after he beat Rey Mysterio, if he'd been off TV for 1 month and came back at like SummerSlam and just an out of nowhere appearance, I think that would have been a lot more productive than having him come back right away. But the second match between Punk and Cena was again a fantastic match, with Punk coming out on top. Only then to be laid out by Kevin Nash, who received a text message that said, "Stuff him." Somebody sent a text to Kevin Nash? That's your storyline? Which then, of course, led to Nash versus Punk. Wait, that never happened. So that led to Nash versus H, which was a decent match. Which then led to Punk and H versus Awesome Truth. Awesome Truth, who had probably one of the best years for a tag team standpoint, taking on Triple H as well as The Rock in the same year. So that's The Miz. Miz was for me main event to teaming with R-Truth. And R-Truth was pretty solid this year for being kind of crazy. And then they ended that year entirely separated apart, and now they'll be feuding into next year. So Miz again will not be getting close to the title for at least a little while he deals with R-Truth. So then the fallout of the attack by Kevin Nash and the no payback by Punk, Del Rio became champion. And then the poor man's Eddie Guerrero JBL hybrid finally maintained his destiny. And it was just... Del Rio and Cena do not have chemistry. Del Rio and Punk, chemistry. Del Rio and Cena, nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all. It's like peanut butter and carpeting. It's just not good. So then they finally give the belt back to Cena. And then a triple threat, Hell in a Cell. Whoever becomes champion again. Why? You know, the first time it kind of sucked. Yeah. But we're going to Mexico next week. We should probably put the gold on him. Yeah. Let's put the gold on him. Yeah. And then luckily, of course, Punk beat him and became champion again. Yes. 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 Which then, of course, led to a pretty decent feud with Miz, Del Rio, and Punk before R-Truth came back to take out the Miz. So all in all, not bad. But then what's been going on with John Cena if he's been kind of in and out of the title picture? He's got a match against some guy next year called The Rock. And that's kind of encompassed the vast majority of his year. Him in the ring, talking to The Rock via satellite. Him in the ring, talking about The Rock when The Rock's not there. Them tweeting each other and slamming each other on Facebook like two 13-year-old girls. Them actually having a tag team match with Awesome Truth at Survivor Series, where the crowd just absolutely hated John Cena, like it should. To the weird John Cena, This Is Your Life tribute by Mick Foley. To Roddy Piper talking to John Cena, to Kane talking to John Cena, to everyone trying to make John Cena either become heel or tweener. So he takes on The Rock, the crowd can boo him, which they will because they're in Miami, which is where The Rock is from. So, you know, from a title standpoint, pretty decent. You might have noticed that I've left out a couple of small things here and there, so I'm going to definitely end on probably one of the lowest notes. Sin Cara. You know, he had awesome promo videos. I saw some of his initial work when he was Mystico. And the guy's pretty solid in the ring. He shows up on Raw with the trampoline. At first I'm like, wow, that's an awesome vertical leap. Saw the trampoline, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So once I saw it, I wasn't entirely blown away, like, oh man, he totally sucks, he needs a trampoline. Yeah, he needs a trampoline that he occasionally doesn't hit quite square and then clips the top rope coming over. So a guy who came in with all this promise just did not live up to the hype at all. And then they brought in Evil Sin Cara, or Hunico. So then they had a match between Hunico Sin Cara and Mystico Sin Cara. So now, initial Sin Cara is the new Sin Cara, and newer Sin Cara is now Hunico. I almost wish that newer Sin Cara would have beaten older Sin Cara, and the new could become the newest Sin Cara. But if you want to know more about Sin Cara, Botchamania.com pretty much has his whole career in the E.